perfectly healthy attributes and very normal behavior in men and boys, Martin Seeger and John Barry, when researching for the Palgrave Handbook of Male Psychology and Mental Health, found that positive attitudes to masculinity are beneficial to the mental health of men and boys and may even provide a barrier against suicidality. To put it more plainly, feminist misandry is killing men and boys. The feminist story goes, our patriarchal societies are run by men for the benefit of men, but the burden of maintaining traditional masculine personas is dangerous for men and boys. Our retort? We reject the hypothesis that we live in a patriarchal society. In fact, the idea that serious adults would entertain such a silly idea based on data entirely lacking in nuance and without any semblance of rational and appropriate analysis is quite bizarre. Men are good, and the attributes common to them are archetypal in nature, and therefore, to help men, we must accept them and meet them where they are. Feminism is malevolent and cannot be tolerated, threatening the mental well-being of our beloved fathers, husbands, brothers, sons, friends. In Women and Power, a Manifesto, Mary finds just how deeply embedded in Western culture are the mechanisms that silence women, that refuse to take them seriously, and that sever them, sometimes quite literally, from the centers of power. When it comes to silencing women, Beard writes, Western culture has had thousands of years of practice. Close quote. It may surprise some listeners that I don't entirely disagree with Beard's claim. Women have been silenced for many years. Take the Peterloo Massacre in Manchester in 1918. Women were well represented, energized by the female reform societies that had recently sprung up to campaign for parliamentary reform, including suffrage for all men, and the repeal of the Corn Laws, which were trade tariffs that kept the price of grain artificially high for British consumers. Magistrates sent cavalry into the crowd, and 4 women were killed on St. Peter's Field, aside from an unknown number who have died from injuries later on. 4 women killed in cold blood for exercising their violent right to protest. 13 men and 1 2-year-old boy, William Fields, the first casualty of the day, who was knocked from his mother's arms and trampled by a horse. 18 people killed, and none because of their sex. Killed because they were working class and threatened to inspire a popular movement to make the state more representative and to encourage policies that would benefit the family rather than the wealthy mercantilist class. When it comes to women as compared to men generally, Western culture has had hundreds, if not thousands of years of practice of prioritizing women's voices. Beard recounts an episode from Homer's Odyssey, wherein Penelope is told by her son Telemachus, "Mother, go back to your quarters and take up your own work, the loom and the distaff. Speech will be the business of men." Close quote. And it is true that few archaic societies welcomed many women in public life, but women had an immense power in the private sphere and influenced men in the public realm. Take Potiphar's wife in the biblical book of Genesis, who was spurned by Joseph, so made a false allegation of rape against him, which resulted in his imprisonment. The ancient Greece, where Beard finds her literary evidence of women's political subordination, gave us democracy, and every free man there could vote. But later incarnations of democracy were far more limited. After the 1918 Representation of the People Act in the UK, only 56% of men could vote, and that was significantly improved from the first Reform Act of 1832, that in around 20% to vote, up from less than 6% beforehand. The first Reform Act was also the act that formally excluded women from voting in general elections. Prior to that, women had voted in elections, and women had been taking an active part in local elections for at least 100 years. They were active political movements as blue and in electioneering, and voting men were expected to vote on behalf of their families, with women expected to take an interest in their politics and advise the men in their lives. In the late Middle Ages, Eleanor of Aquitaine spearheaded the establishment and popularization of chivalric love, in which men were expected to defer to the whims of women, who were presented as men's moral superiors, and which C.S. Lewis would later refer to as the feudalization of love. Eleanor, portrayed in context as a selfish and domineering woman, is reputed to have had much political influence over her husband Louis VI, and persuaded him repeatedly to engage in warfare, to restore Toulouse to her grandmother in 1141, and to invade Champagne and lay waste to the region in a vengeful defense of Eleanor's sister's marriage to an already married man in 1143. In 1147, she accompanied Louis on the crusade to defend the Holy Land. An official political title Eleanor lacked, but a political voice? I think not. Ernest Belfort Bax meticulously documented women's legal privileges in his 1896 book, The Legal Subjection of Men, in areas such as child custody, divorce, alimony, and criminal sentencing. Even then, believe women ruled the day. Perhaps the man being prosecuted was of a higher class than the woman accusing him. In her book, Beard circles back to the modern day, bemoaning the abuse allegedly tweeted at political women in the public eye. However, evidence shows that men in Parliament receive significantly more abuse as standard as compared to women. So, the feminist story goes that women have been silenced throughout history and continue to be so. The more nuanced and realistic MRA story that I suggest is that politically, as women would have it, there have been centuries of oppression, but they were class-based, not sex-based. Men and women, as compared to one another as classes, have both suffered historically from disadvantages and benefited from privileges, had varying degrees of authority in men and women generally worked together to support each other, like we saw at Peterloo, and pooled their advantages to best serve their families and communities. In the words of Jordan Peterson, it looks to me like the so-called oppression of the patriarchy was instead an imperfect collective attempt by men and women stretching over millennia to free each other from privation, disease, and drudgery. Close quote. Today, women are welcomed into politics. They're just as likely to be elected as men, unless they're in one of the UK Labour Party's all women shortlists. And the idea that they're subjected to more abuse when they are is a delusion. However, feminist insistence that women are excluded and abused if they do make office can only hold back any women who believe it and justify the forcible holding back of men.
What the hell is going on? I'm hearing the audio okay. So maybe I'm just crazy. All right, let me see. I'll try to reload it. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, there it is. Yep. Yeah. It's turning out. Well, there's no question about that. Yeah, it's fine. I hear a lot of stuff in the background, however. Yeah, yeah. Well, I am crazy. I don't know. The audio sounds okay here. Is it me or is it the stream or what? Because it sounds all right here. So Michelle Guevara, you are crazy. Exactly. Our friend from Finland, Mita, is here. Hello. Good day. What the hell is it? It's about the same time in Iceland or Iceland. Sorry, Finland as it is in the UK. It's about 7 o'clock now. Lizzie Poo is coming on shortly. I just thought I'd play a little video here to kind of get everything warmed up here. Yeah, she looks all righty to me. Exactly, Godfather. No, Elizabeth is a wonderful person. She really is a unique character, and I think you're going to enjoy the stream coming up shortly. If I could find the video again here. Let's see. Okay.
Another cute feminist story is that men are responsible for the destruction of the planet and environmental degradation, and that were women in charge, the planet would be a healthy and happy utopia.
I mean, it sounds good to me.
As Janice Fiamengo said, and I quote, "We've been informed of 5 women environmental leaders you should know and invited to meet 4 inspirational women working in environmental science today. Articles
it sounds okay to me.
Such scientists abound, almost always including a discussion."
I will scold Lizzie that her microphone was too far away from her face. It's that audio thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit hard to hear, but she's cute and everything. And a ginger.
Of the allegedly unique challenges the women faced in a male-dominated field, with quotations about how such challenges can be overcome almost through state and global initiatives that benefit women by providing them with money and opportunities not available to their male colleagues. The alleged distinctiveness of women's scientific perspective is a challenged assumption in many policy documents and political proclamations. An article outlining "We need to build more networks of women in science" predictably informs readers that women are far more nuanced in their approach to just about everything, including science, which is why environmental science can only become stronger if we have more women in research, because women often bring the human angle into science. The male angle, apparently, is somewhat less than human. Close quote. The evidence supports non-religion science, and this is a rejection of the meritocratic and sex-blind approach to progress that we should be taking, morally and for the purpose of efficiency. If feminists want women to save the environment, they may want to forget the positive discrimination in environmental science and encourage women, who drive 80% of consumer spending, to make more responsible consumer choices. Men and women have worked together throughout history to escape privation and disease and drudgery. Men and women must continue to work if we nurture the planet on which we are flourishing. Throughout history, our sex roles have been rigid of necessity. Today, there are disparities in occupational sex primarily on choice, and this is something we need to accept if we're to tackle the scientific challenges that face us and await us. We need the best people for the job, even when they're men.
She's got a nice rack. What are you saying?
And upwards trajectory
she probably does
of
have a nice
increasing
rack.
the standards of living in our societies.
Looks all right to me. It's probably a ginger rack.
The prevailing gender narrative around domestic abuse, a narrative utterly monopolized by radical feminists,
Yes,
is a narrative
Elizabeth,
that
I can
presents
see you in
domestic
the
abuse
chat.
as a gendered crime.
Oh my God.
Furthermore, it's a narrative with an ever-expanding definition of domestic abuse.
Excuse me, Liz. Do you have big hooters? Oh my God, it's terrible. Oh, you want to? Yeah, we'll let you in.
There was a
What?
period. Yeah. I had that gift, but I
You're live, by the way. You're Liz. Liz,
Hmm?
you're on the air. So go ahead.
I know.
You're live now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hi all.
How are you?
Thanks for the compliments.
Someone was asking about your hooters.
I'm aware. I was responding. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, they lasted.
So do you have big hooters? Is that what happens?
Not anymore. No.
That's terrible.
I've generally diminished in size.
Oh, really? Well, you're kind of a small person the way it is. So you've gotten smaller over time.
Yeah. I've
Why?
gone down 2 dress sizes in like a year.
No kidding. Wow.
No kidding.
I think I've gotten much larger for some reason.
Actually, I have not been drinking at all. That probably
Really?
helped. Yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, although I am tonight, which might be a mistake because I have like zero tolerance, I guess, at this point.
We could be getting crazy then, I suppose.
Could be getting crazy.
You start an OnlyFans and
I
hey,
don't
here
know.
I am. I'm
Yeah.
a ginger. How are you though, Elizabeth? Everything
Yeah,
good?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm good.
So
How are
we're gonna
you?
talk.
Have you slept at all?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you slept at all?
Yes, I actually did.
Have you? Because like it just appears to me you've been uploading videos for like the last 24 hours or something.
That's probably true. Yes, mostly. Yeah.
Mostly in your sleep.
Well, no. I wanted to, I guess, prove a point. I pushed myself to the limit just to see what I could do. And it was, God almighty, what the hell time was it? Like 4:30 this morning, 6 to 7 hours ago or something. I'm like, yeah, hey, Liz, here's a song. Let me play some Led Zeppelin for you. Just for fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like 11 minutes long as well.
Yeah, it was like 25 megs of data. I know.
I was just listening.
It was crazy. Oh, but that's why I love you, because, you know, I can just kind of be stupid and you're like, it's just a hamster. Who cares? Right? So,
right.
All right. Should we go back to you or we want to just keep talking? I think we're just going to keep talking. What do you think?
Yeah, let's keep talking.
All right. So
no, you mean that? Yeah, let's keep talking. Yeah. That's over. That was like, I don't know. That was a different time.
That was a while ago. Yeah.
Then?
I think that was an ICMI thing.
Yeah,
I think it was International Men's Day or something.
What was my boggle that I was bothered about in that video? I'm always bothered about something, but like these days, I feel like the concerns I had even 2 years ago, like I wish they were my main concerns now. The world's gone to shit really quickly.
Yeah. What's your thoughts? What has gone to shit, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's nothing we weren't fair warned about.
Yeah.
In, you know, dissenting kind of heterodox communities. And yeah, you know, I was concerned about our fiscal systems, about corruption, about crony capitalism. You know, I love capitalism, but I don't think we've had that for 100 years or so.
No.
You know, but yeah, like suddenly it's all got really intense, don't you reckon?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you referring to like the whole transmission thing? That's part of it, probably.
What that thing what happened for ages? Just now.
Now it's front and center in front of everyone. You must do this and you must accept this because of this and that and other stuff.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't believe the level of compliance with all of that. It was really disturbing. It was the level of compliance, and not just compliance on a personal level, but the way people policed each other, and also the discarding of models of reality that had worked for us for a long time, about what was right and wrong, what governments were allowed to do, whether pharmaceutical companies were benign, benevolent forces for public health and no other reason, who should be, permitted to force people to take their products and be exempt from being prosecuted if there was any harm, and even the
Yes, we
idea,
have to be
we had all this 100% safe and effective, and it's like, what medication's ever been 100% safe or effective? But we all just, or our populations collectively just forgot everything that we knew and proved to the powers that be that we will just sit and take an awful lot,
like sheep, really. Yeah, there's a little bit of lag, but go ahead and have a drink there, sweetheart. My computer is acting weird. I've got a big freaking fan on it, and it's still doing stupid shit. But it's amazing.
Last night, though.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said we're better than last night. It was like disturbingly glitchy last night.
Is that
I can
right?
follow what you're saying now.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh, you mean a couple days ago, Sunday? I think we talked, or was it last
night?
Dude,
it was last night. Yeah,
it was like, well, there you go. Well, I've got torpedoes of Guinness there, so like big cans of Guinness. Just went and got them. So, what is that vape thing? I've got like in the United States, we have, well, they're trying to clamp down on it because it's evil. But I've got these Views things where you get a little cartridge and shove in the end. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They sell them here, yeah.
Oh, is that okay?
Work.
Yeah. So yeah, because I quit smoking. I think you obviously have as well.
Yeah.
It's bad for you. Man, it's terrible.
I believe so, yeah. And I mean, I don't know. This may be a little bit less worse.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, well, it's less offensive, isn't it, for people who are sat by you? People are very bothered by smoke these days. Did you ever notice that?
I think it's a class kind of thing.
It's like an antisocial act. It is a class thing, yeah. It is big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They believe people who smoke are lesser than them, and oh my God. Because I mean, this stuff happened, Elizabeth.
Away because oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. This shit started in the United States, probably around 1990-ish, where we're going to ban smoking because smoking is evil and it's bad for you and healthy. And really, when you get down to it, it's really a class thing. Oh, these people are lesser. That's the way I look at it, anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's interesting that actually that we've got to be careful what we say now, don't we?
Yes, we do.
I think that I think that there was a class difference in the uptake of the undoubtedly very good recommendation that everyone get vaccinated. The kinds of people who would be bothered because someone is smoking in their proximity for their own health were the exact kind of people who were going for like 18 boosters, whereas the kind of people who smoke themselves or don't care and are, not wealthy, were actually more skeptical.
What kind of drove me crazy about the whole coof is that the people. And again, we have to be a little careful, but we can be careful. We're fine. We'll use prophylactics. We're fine. The people who were complaining, oh, this and that, if you got the juice, what the hell are you worried about?
I know.
You know? Oh my God, you're doing this and you're endangering people. Wait a minute, you got the Fauci. Ouchie. What's your problem?
I know. And well, yeah, but well, allegedly, according
Yes.
to the Lancet, which I assume is now a discredited publication, those people are exactly the kind of people who should be concerned about picking up COVID.
You said it. Oh no, Susan's
I
going to
said
get us
allegedly. I don't believe that. Obviously, I believe what the government tells me.
Of course you do. So do I. I mean, I'm completely on board with Fauci and Biden and whoever the fuck. Yes, you want me to put this in me? Yeah, no problem. No problem. Now, tell me about that. The abortion. Oh, it's my body, my choice. But the other thing, did you get one, by the way?
No.
No, good for you.
And I was prepared to lose my job. Because they brought, I'm in the care sector, and they'd done part of the care sector, but not my part. But then they did pass the legislation to bring in my part, which they U-turned on at the very end. But I was ready to lose my job, which was alarming. But I've just got an attitude problem.
Well, yeah. You're a ginger.
The people I was working for and with were fine, and I was doing a good job, and the government weren't doing much to help us, working really hard, like while everyone else was sitting at home on their asses on furlough, and then they came in and said, oh, but we're not happy about you working without that. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
I just couldn't
same here, Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, my company, and you know where I work, but don't say it. They mandated that you had to get a vax. So the last day, November 30th of 2021, I got one.
Did you get one of those celebration tattoos as well with like the brand name on it?
No, I wouldn't want to show that, because it's like, well, Hamster, why, stand up for your, Jesus Christ, I got big paychecks coming in.
I heard a rumor that Tinder had like vaccinated kind of stickers for people to put on their
I'm sure. Yeah.
Like that's a selling point.
Yeah. So I got one, and it hurt like a bitch for 2 weeks. My arm was like stiff. You ever have a tetanus shot? I'm sure you have, probably.
Why? Why are you sure I've had a tetanus shot?
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, in the U.S., it's pretty. No. Typically, you get a tetanus shot.
Like rocking with wild dogs.
Well, again, it's a little bit different between our countries, but it's pretty standard. You get a tetanus shot every 10 years here, roughly. And what? I got bitten by a raccoon, by the way.
Oh, and that's why you had it.
That, and I got rabies shots too.
Oh yeah, no, in that instance you would, yeah, but
of course, yeah.
What are you saying, like as a standard thing, people just go in?
Yeah, every 10 years they recommend it. You don't. That's not happening in England. Of course, it's. Yeah, I hear you. I saw that. Yeah. I mean, if you step on a nail or something, you get some deep wounds, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, you're a girl and you never work in those industries. I'm just kidding. I know. I hear you. But yeah, it's crazy with the ouchie thing. I'm even kind of looking around for maybe some different employment. And I've turned down a lot of companies because they say, well, we want to talk to you, Hamster. Okay. So what's the deal? Oh, you have to be fully juiced. It's like, fuck you. No, not going to do it. I mean, I already have a shitty job. Why do I want to get another shitty job? What's the point?
No, I mean, they have, to be fair, they have removed, it was only ever made mandatory for people who worked in care homes, and it's now, that's not the case anymore. They've removed it. They haven't compensated, officially apologized, and reinstated people who got pushed out that way. But
That's for you.
thank you. Happy New Year. No, I'm not on Twitter much or anywhere apart from in real life. I'm in real life most of the time.
Well, he did call you a hottie. I mean,
Nick.
that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of talk about like making it mandatory in various workplaces, but as far as I know, in the UK now, it is not mandatory anywhere.
No, not anymore.
No,
I think it's pretty much gone over here as well.
it's really bizarre though, to me, that it's still being pushed
Mm-hmm.
by our
Yes.
health service. I don't see the justification for that.
Why do you suppose that is?
Same old, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Although saying that, I mean, I don't know how to, I don't know the sort of parameters of acceptable speech on this on here now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and be careful. But I have been, I've spent like 2 years talking to a couple of people who I love particularly and respect particularly. And I was insisting that it was clearly companies who don't test the products that they are putting into people's bodies adequately before they do it, and furthermore insist that legislation's passed so that they'll be exempt from having to pay compensation if harm does arise, like are negligent and don't actually care what harms are caused. But I'm kind of troubled to hear. Do you hear the IgG4 news?
I did not. What's that about?
So a paper has come out, and basically, so mRNA is broken down in our bodies, and so we would need boosters if we were going to keep that up.
Okay.
However, the pharmaceutical companies who made the mRNA vaccines specifically added a lipid that prevents the mRNA being broken down in our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yet they still told us, after they'd made sure it wouldn't come out of our, be degraded and whatever, they still told us that it would be, and we needed to keep getting them. And now it turns out that if you have one of the vaccines, and it has to be the same one repeatedly, but the more of the boosters that you get, the more of a proportion of your immune response is IgG4. So the immune response, they have these sub kind of Jesus, this is hard for me to explain because I don't understand it. They have kind of sub functions which are called like IgG 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And the IgG4, the job of that in our bodies is actually to turn off the immune system. So usually you can barely detect that operating in when you're measuring someone's immune response. What it does, it's there to stop us attacking our own bodies. And after one of the vaccines, it's still barely there. But after two, it's accounting for 20% of immune response. So what is that going to do? You know, its sole purpose is to stop the immune system fighting infections or things that it recognizes as infections.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I find that very troubling, and I find it difficult to reconcile with my desire to believe in cock-up theories.
It is interesting, though, isn't it? Why? What do you think? I have an idea, but maybe it's too tinfoil hat, huh? Maybe.
Well, I mean, I know what my loved ones have been saying, and it sounded very dramatic and like cynical, and like surely it couldn't be that evil, but why would they stop it deteriorating and tell us that it wouldn't, sorry, and then tell us that it still would? And then it turns out that the impact of boosting these mRNA vaccines when they're not deteriorating is so awful for our health. And then they're talking, you know, Tony Blair's in Davos this week talking about the next pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
When we've got all these people with dysfunctional immune systems thanks to what they forced people or coerced people to get.
Why do you think people are so against believing there is evil in this world? Why? Why do you think people are like that?
That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. I think, you know, obviously there's fear, and it's fear of evil, but I think maybe it's also fear of, if there's evil, then there's also good. And, you know, we're going to have to objectively, critically measure ourselves on that spectrum. You know, if everything's relative, then nothing that you do is so bad. You know, it's all somewhere just human nature, you know? But I do think that we critically disarm ourselves when we reject the idea of evil, actually. I think it should be recognized.
Do you think some people can't admit that there might be evil in this world because if there's evil, then there might be a God? Do you think it has anything to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, and it's it's the same kind of, the people who are dogmatic on there not being a God are more likely to be dogmatic on the idea that nobody's evil, you know.
There simply can't be a force like that, because if there is a force like that, there would have to be a force in the opposite way. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, are you religious at all? Do you go to church? I'm Catholic.
No, I don't go to church. I have tried quite a few around here. The best service was a Catholic service. That was the only service where I felt taken out of the everyday, which I think is like critical. Like, why go to church to feel like you're anywhere else, you know? But
yeah, I do actually.
I've bizarrely, like, I've been an atheist my entire life, but I became increasingly interested in the legacy that our faith has bequeathed upon us in the West. And actually, like, I bizarrely seem to be coming to a kind of coming to God intellectually, having an intellectual journey to God, which I would not have thought was even possible, but it seems to be happening to me.
I don't know. The more I think about it, and the more I see this crap going on, I think it is a lack of God. a lack of a belief in something. Now, Douglas Murray is good on this. I'm sure you know Douglas Murray, probably. You know, he says it's like a hole shaped or a God shaped hole or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Like our civilization, it's not been a net gain or loss of faith by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, even if one doesn't believe in God, I mean, isn't there morals? Where do those come from?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
internal human stuff. Where does it come from?
There was a good 5-minute big ideas or something video I saw years ago, actually, which was probably like one of the first things that sort of bent my mind the right way, with Brett Weinstein. And he was saying that he thinks that God is literally false but metaphorically true, because acting as though he exists leads us to lead more meaningful, fulfilling lives. And yeah, you know, there's a really good uncommon knowledge conversation that went up only a few days ago, like within the last week, with Douglas Murray and Tom Holland, or no, he's Spider-Man, isn't he? Some
Yeah,
Tom guy
so.
that I don't know, but he's all right, and some Stephen guy that I don't know, but he's all right. And it was called "Does God Exist?" And the Tom guy, who isn't Spider-Man, made a really good point, which was that, like, you know, dogmatic secularists believe in things that are equally as mental, like human rights. You know, there is no objective scientific foundation for us to believe in human rights, and yet we all do, right? We'll all go to war to like defend the human rights of people who we're not even related to. And actually, you know, that the idea of human rights in the first place is a Christian idea. That's where we've got that idea from. And yeah, Jordan Peterson said the same thing to Sam Harris when they were debating, you know, that the idea that there is an intrinsic value in human life is a Christian idea. And there is no particular reason why anyone should come to that idea just philosophically, just scientifically.
I mean, what would be the harm, you think, Elizabeth, in believing in Jesus? For example, I'm not saying religious, like, hey, the guy lived, he had some good things to say. Why are the left so opposed? Why? I don't understand it. I mean, he didn't say, you know, that. He said, yeah, I love everybody and all that. But it seems like they're so opposed to that. I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't.
No, I mean, you know, it's surely bound to be multifaceted and various reasons to varying degrees in various people. And, you know, part of it's fashion. And, you know, bizarrely, it's still fairly effectively sold as some kind of rebellious position. You know, I don't know how they managed to, you know, sell that idea that it's somehow radical and brave to be a critic of Christianity.
Well, I mean, Jesus really, if you think about it, Elizabeth, Jesus was a radical at the, you know, they should be celebrating. Oh my God, he was pushing against the system.
I know.
Even the Prophet Muhammad, Buddha, whatever you believe in, it was all against the system. Mm-hmm. And it would seem the lefties would be all over that, but they're not. Why do you suppose that is? Why do they hate Christianity so much, or Islam? Well, they don't hate Islam as much, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
I don't see much of that. Yeah, I mean, I think anecdotally, I've not looked into research on this. I'm sure there are attitude surveys and stuff that go into it, but I suspect that a lot of it is fashion, to be honest. But I do think that there is, you know, an element around that is being unwilling to be judged on that standard. If you accept, you know, Jesus as a good man to follow, that's not easy. And it does involve scrutinizing yourself, your own behavior, your own motivations, and doing the right thing, whether or not it's expedient in the moment. And people don't want to do that. People are quite happy to indulge in sensory pleasures and short-term hedonism.
What do you think about the Bible? I mean, is it the word of God, or is just good common sense, you know, developed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, which Bible? I'm quite interested in the Gnostic texts.
Yeah, I've heard of
Elaine
those. Yeah.
Padgels writes about them very interestingly. There is no, you know, compelling reason why specific gospels were called heretical and others got in, unless, you know, you take her view that actually a lot of the gospels that were labeled as heresy were very much antithetical to the establishment of hierarchies.
You
And
know
so,
about the Cathars, don't you?
not really.
Really? Yeah,
No.
they were Christians, but they didn't believe in all the old Pope bullshit back in 1100. Yeah, remember
Well,
that?
that's I've heard the name, but I don't really know. I don't know about them, but I guess they're kind of on this wavelength. Elaine Padgels talks about, you know, I mean, early Christianity was hugely diverse, and people were practicing it in many different ways until, you know, the Catholic Church started to establish itself and establish a very rigid hierarchy with, you know, the infallible Pope at the top. But one of the ideas that the Catholic Church ruled out as heretical very early on was that we are made in the image of God. And if you want to see God, you look inside yourself, which obviously is really not very politically expedient, is it? If what you want to do is control people and tell them what to do. It's also like, you know, and there's balance, because on the other hand, is it always useful, and does it give people security to tell them that they have to go out and work it all out themselves? Like, that could be destabilizing. So, you know, I have some sympathy for, perhaps it's not only not politically expedient for people who want to control, but actually it might not be that functional for a society if everyone is reading the Bible and interpreting the Gospels differently. There is that.
Isn't it all about power, though, really? I think so. Power and control. That's what I think. Your take, Liz.
What, the Bible? What's all about power?
No, religion. You know, the Catholic Church, the Pope, all this stuff, the Eastern Pope, the this and the that. It's all about controlling people, isn't it? The church. I'm not saying the Bible or Jesus or Muhammad or whatever. The structure of the church.
Yeah, like, look, like, the Catholic Church has committed some grievous sins.
Yeah, heinous stuff. Yeah, no question.
It's highly troubling. And yet, when I when I went to the Catholic service I went to around here, the first thing I noticed, I walked in and there is like a collection bowl for coins just here. And then there's like a pad on the wall so you can swipe your card as well. And then just here, this is all before you enter the actual church. Here, there's like a gift shop. And I was like, it's funny, that kind of reminds me of that time Jesus trashed the temple because they were treating it like some kind of bazaar. But yeah, you know, the service actually was very uplifting, and it was, yeah, something that allowed me to transcend in a way that none of the Baptist, Methodist, Church of England services I've been to have. They've all been so profane and, you know, trying so hard to be as secular and not weird and acceptable as possible, that they actually had nothing to offer at all.
I mean, what did they say during the service? Did they say, you know, get on and don't be a sinner and blah, 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 or did they say some other bullshit, which has been my experience?
Where? At the Catholic service?
At the Catholic service, yeah.
It was specifically about neighborliness. It was very nice. And, you know, the old, what do they call the sky pilot in Catholicism? What, like a priest?
Yeah, priest, yeah, that's right.
Priest. Yeah, he was telling us, like, you know, he's reading from the Bible, but then he's like doing his little like ad libs like an MC or something, and you know, saying like, if you see a woman and she's struggling with her shopping, give her a hand, and if there's an old man wants to get on the bus, let him on first, and like this stuff. And it was like, yeah, I dig this. And actually those little gestures are missing in this city. They, like, it bothers me all the time. People, you know, not it's not even that they don't see people who, you know, should be given some consideration. Like, they see them and then they grab their phone and pretend to be, you know, interested in something on there so that they can go and get on that seat on the bus before the old man with the walking stick. You know, it's like perverse. So I appreciated his messages.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good message, you know, help other people. Just be nice. You know, what's wrong with that? You know? You know, if someone is suffering and they need some help, go help them. What's the problem? Except it seems like, and we're going to get around to our topic eventually, maybe feminism. What do you think about that? It's also a religion now, isn't it?
It is also a religion. Yeah, it's I'd put it on the shit tier of religions personally. But yeah, it's got all of the original sin and the,
for men only, though. Men only.
Spectre of utopia. Well, yeah, but also kind of it's also for our civilization collectively. You know, that's part of what's so offensive, because, you know, I grew up with my great grandmother, and she'd lived through World War II. And, you know, the illusions that or aspersions that they pass on what women were willing to put up with before feminism came along in the 60s and liberated them. It's like, how about fuck you? You know, these were strong women. These were women who were engaged in manual labor that would destroy you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, the British women especially, I'm sure you've seen the videos, right? They're working in the bomb factories and they were dying because the shit was blowing up and all that stuff. Yeah. And of course, the men, well, who cares about them? They were just over in France having a
Well,
good time, right?
Well, my great nan did care deeply about her men, and it was actually her losing too many men in World War II that led to our family losing faith collectively. As an aside.
My grandfather was in the Asian area during World War II.
Really?
Yeah. And my dad was actually in communist Hungary when the Nazis took over. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. He was a kid. He actually got injured by an Allied bombing run. You know, they were in there, trying to, take over and win the war. He's and I talked to you about the old man last night. He's doing better today, but
Good.
But he's got this scar in his butt where a piece of shrapnel came in and ripped him apart.
Bloody
he was like 9 years old.
Oh, that's mad, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And then I went out with this chick years ago, and her grandfather was actually part of the Normandy invasion.
Mm-hmm.
He flew like the gliders. So the gliders came in and brought the men in, whatever. He was the pilot of the plane that brought the gliders in. It's amazing.
Actually, my kid's dad has a good family story. His grandfather, so my kid's great-grandfather, was wounded in the Normandy landings and lay on the beach for like 5 days. And then when he came home and he was put in a house to recuperate, one of the nurses became his wife, and they had my kid's grandma together and lived many happy years, although he had shrapnel in his shoulder, which was, they could never get out, and he would wake shouting very regularly during the night, whether from pain or post-traumatic stress kind of dreams or what, we're not sure, because he wouldn't talk about it.
They used to call it shell shock back in the day.
Yeah, which is, I think, quite a good visceral description of it, actually, compared to post-traumatic stress. It's more visceral, don't you think?
Yeah, my grandfather never talked about the World War II. No, never said a thing.
Very common.
Yeah. And I mean, he was in the Pacific. That was some bad shit. I mean, the war is bad everywhere, but that was really some nasty shit. And the oddest thing, though, Elizabeth, he really loved the show called Combat. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. It was a TV series in, I think, the 1960s. And he would for whatever reason, right? He was in the war. He was a sergeant. He had the machine gun, all that kind of shit. And he, when it came on, I guess Saturday night or something, he would sit down and watch the whole thing. I don't know if he was trying to relive some memories. I don't know. I never got to talk to him about that. I was just a kid. He passed away in 75. So he was just a young man, like 50, 53, 54, something like that. Never got to ask him that question. Crazy, isn't it?
No, I'd be interested to see the show and see if I could divine what might have been there. I don't know. I mean, I'd wonder whether, because during that period, there were films and television that portrayed men positively. And one of the because I've done quite a lot of reading, and actually, I mean, I've randomly bumped into quite a lot of soldiers. It wasn't random. Like last year, I gave a speech to a charity, but they happened to hold it in a place called the Union Jack Club, which is actually a club for soldiers and veterans. I've no idea why the charity was even allowed space in there, but actually, before it was quite funny. Before my speech, I was like, I'm got to go down to the smoking area, have a vape, and I just ended up getting drunk with a load of soldiers listening to their stories. it was really good, but someone had to come and get me, and then I had to give my speech drunk. But one of the really interesting kind of aspects of the accounts of being in those conflict situations is the camaraderie that men feel together. I was talking to a husband and wife once, and the wife said that obviously they love each other very much, but she knows that she will never be able to love him or share love with him in the same way that he does with the men who have been with him, saving his life, and he's saving their lives on a daily basis. And a lot of the psychological literature talks about how there's this phenomenon that happens wherein when men are entered into these situations, they stop thinking of themselves as individuals. They're not looking out for their own safety and well-being. They're looking out for the safety and well-being of their group. Like, it's literally an altered state of consciousness, and it's very interesting and tragically beautiful.
Why do you think people are broken? And why don't we just understand that we are? All of us. Every one of us has had shit. Why do we put up with this? What's your take on
that? What an enormous question. Bloody hell. I didn't expect this, Hamster.
I didn't either. Actually, I'm just making it up as we go along. Yeah. I thought it would be a good question. Why are we broken? Why are we as we are?
I mean, I think one of the reasons is a lack of incentive. Men who stand up straight with their shoulders back are setting themselves up as targets for repercussions, socially, professionally, legally, potentially. And yeah, women are presented with a lot of disincentives. There is no one policing women. Women's bad behavior is tolerated and even celebrated. You can wear a badge of honor if you're a dickhead as a woman in many, many situations, and even the most kind of grotesque sort of crimes that women might commit, like these women who murder their husbands, and then they get a gaggle of feminists, radical feminists come in.
Oh, it's okay. He was evil.
Syndrome when there's zero evidence for it.
Right.
And then Jess Phillips will cry in Parliament when they're released.
What do you think broke society at this point?
I think the loss of faith did a massive amount of damage.
Where do you think the evil of feminism comes from? It's a toxic, Elizabeth, I'm not going to lie. It's a toxic mental illness at this point. Mm-hmm. There's something going on. Where does this come from?
What was that thing I wrote in my thing I wrote to you? I thought that was quite good. Hang on.
I'll pull it up here. I've got it right here. Yeah.
I had like a burst of ideas.
Yeah, I've got it here. Hold on. Let me just pull it up because I'm stupid.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's this message I sent you at 9:29 this morning.
Yes, thank you.
So, yeah, I feel like, the deliberate destruction of our men actually, thank you, which has primarily been led by feminists, it's certainly very useful if what you want to do, which you would want to do if you were an elite who were looking for total control, was to take out our leaders, was to take out the people who would be able to assess situations very clearly and work out a good course of action. And, you know, I've been reading quite a lot of Jung in the last year or two, and you know, he, with his suggestions about the subconscious and the different sort of elements of our personalities, or and they're like, he felt that we had different actual personalities inside of us that are kind of jostling for control, and that we had to integrate them in order to be in control of them. And so, you know, actually, I'm think that perhaps even if it wasn't actually a consciously deliberate attempt to take out our leaders and to take out the people who we really needed for courage and moral clarity, maybe that wasn't consciously known, but there was a subconscious drive within these kind of academics and elites to do this.
Someone is saying your English accent is silly. What do you think?
It's silly. I've not heard that one before. I don't know, I suppose. Maybe.
Well, you're Liverpudlian, right? Liverpool.
Well, yeah, I am, but my Scouse is very slight.
Now, so do I have an accent in your eyes?
Yes. Yeah.
I sound like an American.
Really silly American accent, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do?
No, I love an accent. Like all of them. It's good the way people sound different. Don't you think? It's like interesting.
I think it is too. It's personality. It's the thing that makes us human. You know, everyone is different. It's fun. You know.
Do you know like a really interesting finding?
Tell us, please.
You would surely expect that as we become more interconnected and we're all talking like we are across continents and everything, that accents would become more homogenized and we'd all end up kind of with the samey accent. But actually the complete opposite is happening. And so regional accents are becoming increasingly harsh. And the theory is that people use it as a mark of identity. It makes them feel like they are part of a community when they are talking the same as the people in their streets. And so, you know, it's not like a conscious thing that we're hamming up our accents. But I mean, if you listen to the Beatles, like their accents are mellower than a modern Scouser.
Yes.
It's day and night. And also dogs bark in accents.
Dogs barking.
Yeah.
Now, Elizabeth, channel at 1-800-DUMB says, aren't the Beatles from Liverpool? I think so. I've heard that.
Correct. 10 points to that man.
That's right. Yeah. The Cavern Club and all that stuff. You've been there. I know. We've talked. It turns out Elizabeth is a big Beatles fan, especially Ringo. You like Ringo, right?
Well, I do like Ringo, especially his appearance on 200 Motels.
I've not seen that. What is that, a video or?
No, 200 Motels is a Frank Zappa film.
Oh, okay.
It was supposed to be like a kind of opera type thing, performance. Not really an opera. It's like an orchestral piece, but there were like sketches in between, and it was due to be performed at the Royal Festival Hall, which is now the South Bank Centre in London, but it got shut down by the obscenity police just before it opened. I actually saw the premiere of it that was put on, like 5-6 years ago or something. They actually did perform it at the South Bank Centre as it was supposed to be. But when he was, denied, he made it into a film, and Ringo Starr plays like a perverted dwarf.
Really?
And sometimes he plays Frank Zappa as well. Yeah, it's like he says things that you wouldn't expect Ringo to say, because isn't he nice?
After all, he was the shortest Beatle anyway.
And also Thomas, I also appreciated his work on Thomas the Tank Engine.
That was actually really good.
It's really good, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a wonderful voice.
He has.
Yeah.
He's got a lovely voice, but also like just the stories in Thomas and the characters were excellent.
You ever watch Postman Pat?
Yes, I watched Postman Pat. Yeah,
Postman Pat. Yeah, that's good.
They've all gone downhill,
I mean, it's all good and good fun.
Postman Pat. No, they're not fun anymore. Very woke.
They not fun anymore. I'm
You
sorry.
got to watch the originals.
Well, I could do that.
Have you seen what they've done to Scooby-Doo?
No, I haven't actually. No. What have they done?
No, well, I haven't seen what they've done to Scooby-Doo either, but Critical Drinkers watched a tiny little bit of what they've done to Scooby-Doo, and
that Velma thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's really horribly mean-spirited. Really,
I mean, everybody's a lesbian and a gay person and a person of color and
or evil. Except we don't use evil; they're just
stop it now.
Useless and privileged,
Excuse me, there's no evil left in the world. You're imagining things happening. So, what does the American accent sound like? Because I know your Liverpudlian accent. There seems to be something with there's this thing. I don't know. There's this G thing you guys do. I'm thinking.
Oh my God.
Ging.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to do that. It feels a bit coarse. But
no, it's good. No, it's wonderful.
Like a Scouser will have he or she will say like, there's like 7 G's at the end of a word, not just one. Yeah, just stretch it out.
What does a Scouser mean? What is that? Scouser.
Oh, you know what? That's weird. Someone actually asked me that recently, and I was like, you know what? I've got no idea. I
don't either. Oh.
We cook stew, but we call it scouse.
Okay. And like a soup or something? You cook that and it's called a scouse?
It's like meat and potatoes and some vegetables and stuff in a broth.
Mm-hmm. Really? It sounds delicious. Do you do that often?
It's fine.
Sounds okay. Marry me, baby.
I've done it from time to time, yeah. Fairly regularly.
Okay, great. Love it. Yeah, I just cook soup. I don't call it scouse, but whatever. It works.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, when I cook it, I call it stew.
Stew.
Because I mean, to be fair, like I would have to look up. There must be some kind of thing that makes scouse distinct, or I don't know. Maybe there isn't, because like Scousers are just so terribly tribal. It would be just like Scousers to just claim ownership of stew for no reason and insist on calling it something different just to be special.
Now, when you run around London, do you go to the what are they called? The places where you get the munchie food at 2:00. What is that? Can't recall that. What is that?
What? You know what? I actually live in a very nice part of London, which is nearly not London, and it doesn't feel like London.
Okay.
But we do have the mayor of London, which is currently
he's a cunt,
very unfortunate.
Right? Yeah, he's a cunt.
Yes. Yep. And yeah, oh God, let's not go into detail about why our community hates him at the moment. You know what happened? Like, I was convinced he was surely not going to be re-elected last election.
Yeah.
Because everyone hates him. But what happened?
Apparently not, though. Unfortunately.
No. What happened was there was like David Curtin Sean Bailey. So David Curtin was Heritage Party. Sean Bailey was Conservative Party, and Piers Corbyn, I've forgotten what the party was called, but he was talking all about the vaccines and stuff. And they were all great candidates. Oh, and Lawrence Fox with the Reclaim Party. And like, there were so many great candidates. The vote of decent people just got split. And he like swooped in. Bad mistake. Like, to be fair, I did feel it. I felt that danger. And I was like, I really like all of them, but I'm going to go with the Conservative because I think we should just present a united front here. Like, we don't want that back in.
Why are you such a Nazi, Elizabeth?
It's never loved as a child.
That's right. I just didn't have my daddy. So here's the top 10 English street foods, just in case you were wondering.
So
Pollock fish and chips. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that one. The fried fish is Hungarian Jews.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That would be me.
The interest, it's like, yeah, all of these articles never have anything that's really very British. Keep going.
Well, I mean, it says England, so it must be England. It says it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we very much feel that it's ours, but it's ours by virtue of people who immigrated, communities who immigrated.
Chips, cheese, and gravy is the national dish of the Manx people. Did you know
is
that?
The Manx? Oh my God, they are literally the worst. Yeah, but I did have a friend who used to eat that, and I judged her.
Shame on you.
Would ya?
You're
like,
evil.
really? That's wrong, isn't it? Don't you think that's wrong?
It is. It is. All right. What else we got? Place fish and chips, or it's probably place. Who knows? The Frenchies. You know, they get in there in England. They do all kinds of crazy shit.
That's a bit. I don't know. That's the same one twice, in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks the same as the fish and chips. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one here. Black peas. You have peas for breakfast, don't you, on toast?
We do, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes lunch.
Like baked beans, like out of the can on the toast. Yeah, that sounds delicious, actually. No.
You know what? Like, it's very quick, and it's actually surprisingly nice. Like, it's one of them that you're like, oh bloody hell, I literally have no energy. It's going to have to be beans on toast. But like, you end up going, quite enjoyed that, you know. And actually, the combination of the bread and the beans makes omega-6, which is almost as good as omega-3.
Black beans in Lancashire. Another Beatles reference. I'm terrible. I'm sorry. 2,000 holes in Blankbird Lancashire.
Oh, come on. This is getting ridiculous.
What? It is. I know.
You know what's going to be number one, don't you?
Probably the thing I can't remember what it's called. Yes.
Cod and chips.
It's cod and chips is the number one.
Yeah, cod is the number one fish to have with chips. But I do disavow the concept of labeling each different kind of fish and chips as a separate dish. Like, I just feel like some kind of, some kind of moral agreement with the reader has been breached here.
Well, it says here, though, Elizabeth, fish and chips is a traditional British dish consisting of freshly fried fillets, or how do you say it? Fillets, right? You say fillets. Right.
Yeah, unless you're like really posh. You said it.
Well, I think you're posh.
What are you, the queen?
Yes, fresh fillets and sliced fried potatoes. The fish is dipped in a batter of eggs, flour, and milk, and then it's for Lord, anyway.
You're supposed to put beer in it.
Well, if there's beer in it, it's all good. Oh, this eel shit. Do you eat this stuff?
No,
Really?
I've never tried that. No, but that happens in the country.
There are eel merchants everywhere in British.
It's
in
like
England. Yes.
There are little pots of it, and it's like jelly with like chunks of eel in it. It looks proper rank.
I would say this.
I live in fear of the day that someone dares me to try it. And I wish I hadn't said that publicly. That's obviously going to happen now, isn't it? Everyone's going to be walking around with jelly deals in their pockets, just waiting to bump into me.
Now, if I ever get to England, Elizabeth, I'm going to come to you and say, "Excuse me, Ms. Hobson, I've got some jelly deals in my pants. Are you happy to see me?" What? No, just kidding. Okay. Jelly deals, codfish and chips. There we go. Seems like the British like their fish and chips, regardless of anything else.
Yeah, we do, but it's gotten very expensive these days. Everyone comments on that.
Like, is it like avocado toast?
It used to be a fairly inexpensive way to eat out, and you get a lot of food and be quite happy with that. But
it used to be like a worker's kind of lunch, right? I think.
Yeah.
And now it's like avocado toast. Oh my God. Somebody's going to smash an avocado on my toast. Give me $48. What the fuck is wrong with people? I don't get it. Okay, let's go on and see what we have here. Cornish pasty. You've been to Cornwall. Tell me about this food delicacy.
That's very good. That's like meat and shit all mixed up, and you eat it. And they made it like that so the fellas, when they went to work, could put it in their pocket and it'd be all, very
another
good.
Working man food.
I approve of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can get that cheap.
Another working man and woman food, by the way. We're not trying to be, an evil misogynist here. All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, that's it? Oh, pork pie. There you go.
Oh, really?
What about that? Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't go for that.
I'm thinking that's a drunk food, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, everything's a drunk food if you're drunk enough, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Jelly deals is a drunk food when you're drunk enough.
Oh, look at number one. Fish and chips.
No. Yeah. That is just the worst. Right. Firstly, that's the worst. Because that's ridiculous. Every other item has been fish and chips. And this time they haven't even specified the fish. So it does encapsulate all the fish. Like, what is this? That's bad journalism. But also, we're very proud of our curry.
Mm-hmm. How's that,
and actually, though? I mean, it's slightly funny because obviously it's Indian. But, that was our property. So... And not only was it our property, but the dishes that are most popular in the UK were specifically designed for the British palate. So they kind of are actually British.
Yes, the British, after all. Leak. No, you really have. While I'm searching for the next thing, it's 2:56, so we have a couple of minutes more. Go ahead and can you imitate an American accent?
Okay, hang on.
Here we go. God. Yeah, here we go.
I'm on the spot now. Like, oh God, I'm really shy. What should I say?
I don't know. Say something.
What about like a sort of? Hang on, can I get a book? Because I need to know what to say.
Well, you are one of those girls that reads books. Did you hear my stream the other day? Women who read books become men and they're evil. Don't you know that?
Okay. Right.
Get back in the kitchen, woman. All right.
Oh no, I've chosen the most difficult one to do, and I've never tried this. I want to do a Camille Paglia. Okay, so it's going to be super fast, kind of New York-y. All right.
Okay. Great.
Oh God. Oh, can you help me? Do like an example of Camille Paglia.
Camille Paglia. She talks really fast.
Hierarchy, the secret subject of Dorian Gray, comes from Wilde's Apollonian vocation as a poet of the visible. He said, like Gautier, I've always been one of those pourquoi le monde hierarchy by virtue of...
Yes.
I like that. It's kind of something like that. I like listening, not doing.
I like listening, not doing. You're just, I love you, Elizabeth.
Actually, you know, I tell a lie. I do like doing accents, but what I like doing is, you know, when you've got like someone is a neighbor or like in your office who has an accent, I like when they walk out the room repeating what they've said in a really bad accent.
Hello, I was going to the fish market or something. I know I'm terrible at the English accent. I know.
Yeah, that is what we always say to each other, though.
It is, isn't it?
Mm.
I'll do the John Lennon. That's what we say to each other for Liverpool. That's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's not terrible and bad. And all right, let's get some Camille Paglia here. We got to help Elizabeth figure out this thing. Hold on. 1 second. Videos. Yes. She's wonderful, actually. I love her. She's really good.
Oh, God, Camille.
Okay. What's wrong with feminism? Whoa.
No, I absolutely.
We'll go back to the other one here. What's wrong with everything?
Yeah, I do skip to the loo.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Dubious 333. Yes, she is.
Sorry. The stupid internet is fucking with us. I apologize.
She's like
okay, 1 second.
Favorite.
Sorry. Okay. We'll do this. Here we go.
Does anyone know what
I notice wherever I work, upper middle class career women are very unhappy. They're very unhappy, okay, even though they've achieved a certain status. And what I'm saying is that feminists have to stop blaming men for their own unhappiness. The unhappiness is due, I believe, to huge systemic changes that women, for thousands of years, women had their own world. There was the world of women, and there was the world of men. And the sexes didn't have that much to do with each other. Okay, this is a brand new experiment to have.
She's a fast talker, there, Liz.
You know what? That's the slowest I've ever heard her talk. That like
I'm sorry,
when she's. I said that's the slowest I've ever heard her talk. When she's in conversation, it is awesome to behold. It's like, how big are her lungs? Because she's not big.
Yeah.
She's like about my sort of size. She's tiny, but
yeah,
she's
probably
just
like 5'2" or 5'3", something like that.
Loud as well. Like she projects her voice to the very back of a huge room that's packed with people at a million miles an hour. It's awesome.
I love it. She's great. She's fantastic.
Have this new independent now.
And she's also a ginger, apparently.
Yeah, that.
A ginger. Excuse me. John Lennon, she's a ginger.
She throws in those okays all the time, doesn't she? Okay. It's like her. I do,
okay,
you know.
Okay, it's right. Yeah,
But it sounds
I think
good
she's a little bit of a spurg, you know. She's a little bit of a spurg, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she is a female genius, which is a rare breed, but she really is.
Well, I mean, that's the way geniuses work. They tend to be a little bit weird, right?
Yeah,
they tend to be a little bit out on the edge. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, the way in which she is able to focus on her thoughts, you know, most people don't have the intellectual energy to do that or the desire to do that. And she's also, you will, in fact, Steve Moxon made the point in the Woman Racket that female geniuses are often known to say that they feel more comfortable in male company. And she says that. She feels more like one of the boys generally. She's more at ease.
What do you think? You think you're one of the boys more so?
Well, actually, I mean, it's not for any reasons of genius in my case. But
Oh,
yeah,
come on now. Don't discriminate against yourself. Come on now.
I have like 3 women who, no, that's not true, actually. I've got another 2 now. So I've got 5 women in my life who I see on the same level as like significantly more men. And I've got wild mothers. So Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who is a Jungian psychologist, talks about wild mothers who are not generally biologically related, but they help women to form themselves properly. They're like mentors. And I have 1 female wild mother and 2 men.
Why do you hate women's rights, Elizabeth? I know. Go ahead.
It's the morality issue. So I am, for some reason, quite dogmatic on what I think is right and wrong. And men are generally, it's generally quite clear to men, or more so than women, what is right and wrong. Whereas, and I think it's a sort of effect of one of women's roles to be to kind of glue the sort of make their families socially acceptable. Because women's role is to make their families socially acceptable, they will accept more pressure to bend their morality to what the group is apparently thinks. And I think we see that with the kind of, and actually I really want to see some research on this, because you hear a lot of feminists saying that the trans lobby are prioritizing the needs and wants of men over women. But, and I see where they're coming from, but anecdotally, when I'm just going about in the world and talking to men and women, I find a lot more women who are totally on board with it all, and a lot more men who have concerns. And so, yeah, but I do find a lack of moral clarity in more women than men, which prevents me from wanting to form a deep bond with them.
We were going to do your stuff, but it's bothering me a little bit, Elizabeth. Why do you not believe women should have everything handed to them in this evil patriarchy? Why shouldn't they have the whole thing? The whole thing, as you say.
Well, it's the lack of opportunity for growth on a personal level. I would not want, I would not want to change any of the obstacles or problems or challenges that I've faced. I wouldn't want to get rid of them retrospectively from my life, because I feel that I have become a better, wiser person for suffering that. And then there's obviously, it's a bizarre kind of ridiculous idea. Also, it's just not rational, is it? That can't be. Only a fool would say that, in the words of Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. I like Steely Dan. I'll have to play one for you later. Which one do you like in
only
particular?
A Fool Would Say That is my absolute favorite.
Which one?
Well, become one of salads and sun. Only a fool would say that. Boy with a plan, natural man wearing a white Stetson hat. And hand that gun be gone, there's no one to fire upon. If he's holding it high, he's telling a lie.
My goodness, you like Steely Dan?
I
didn't know that.
In particular, yeah, because it's about a clueless socialist.
Yeah,
it's a criticism of him.
But I mean, Donald Fagen and Walter, or whatever his fucking name, they were fucking lefties. They were communists. So why do you think they played that song then?
Really, I didn't know that.
Oh, they're
I imagine they
way
were
wacky left wing people. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but perhaps it's from Can't Buy a Thrill. I don't know what year that was. I wonder if
Can't Buy a Thrill. Oh yes, I have the album. Yes, I get it. Yep.
There was a good anecdote. A friend of mine bought me that album, and he went shopping for it with another friend, and they were discussing which Steely Dan album to buy me because I hadn't listened to them before. And Bob said to Dan, we should buy Can't Buy a Thrill because those women look like Diz. I was called Diz in those days. And the women on the cover of that album are prostitutes. So much hilarity ensued.
I had no idea you like Steely Dan. So you're going to get some more MP3.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm interested though to know what the motivation was. Do you know the Cream song Politician?
I don't, but I'm going to have to look it up.
That is absolutely rad. It's proper, like,
you dig it. In other words,
it's very masculine.
Ooh.
Gets you there. But yeah, that's there is a lyric repeated in that, which is I'm on the left, but I'm moving to the right. Oh, I can't remember what the lyric is now because I can't hear it in my head.
I'm going to find out though, Liz. Don't worry about it.
No, because there was a period where thoughtful people, especially the kind, some of the musicians who were in it with all the idiots, and you had, Frank Zappa's around telling everybody to be sensible.
MGTOW Cowboy is in the stream, Liz, if you wouldn't mind. Hello, MGTOW.
Oh, nice socialist.
Yes,
oh my goodness!
yes,
hello, a white Stetson hat.
It's a Resistol, but yes.
Yeah. Damn.
That's okay. Most people they know of Stetson, but there are lesser known brands that are also a good value.
Oh, I see. So, like, it is for cowboys, though.
Yes, that's a cowboy hat. Hello, Hamster, and hello, Elizabeth. I have a question and a comment very quickly.
Oh, neat.
So the comment is, I just wanted to comment on your British accent, Elizabeth. I find it very charming.
Yes. Liverpool.
Oh,
yes,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I think most Americans they automatically are favorable to a British accent, and I think that we think that British accents are sophisticated or something. But yeah, it's very endearing. And then secondly, I wanted to ask you a quick question. Can you share your thoughts on MGTOW? Surely this is somewhat of a MGTOW channel. Can you talk about MGTOW for a second in the context of this conversation? You know you're among MGTOW, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I would suggest to any man that it would be advantageous to at least have a MGTOW period wherein he's able to set himself up as independent on every level and quite happy without a woman, so that, if he wants to bring one in later, he is very confident in the knowledge that if she's not good enough, he can kick her to the curb and he'll be quite happy and secure in solitude. But beyond that, Yeah, I generally have a positive kind of attitude to the lifestyle.
What would you say, for example, Elizabeth? Excuse me. Excuse me. What would you say, for example? There's this idea that among many in MGTOW, there is this idea that in the United States we should repeal women's right to vote. Here, colloquially, we call it the 19th Amendment. I don't know what it would be called in Britain, but
Yeah.
the idea that we should, as a class of people, restrict women's rights to bring back some sort of balance to the gender dynamic. What would you say about that?
I find that, you know, and I think it's related to the lack of moral clarity that is more prevalent in women. I think that's where the problem comes from, you know, and it's not a massive difference. Men and women's voting priorities are broadly the same, pretty much all the time. However, you know, when we had you had the 2016 presidential election and we had Brexit, both of those votes were very close. And if only women had voted, they'd have been equally close, but they both have gone the wrong way. And I am troubled. I would feel more secure if women didn't have the vote, actually.
So then, so I'm sorry. So then you are open right now, as of right now, you are openly and publicly coming out saying that you are against women having the franchise. Is that right?
I'm not in active opposition, but I would quite happily see it go.
I see.
You know, and I think that, you know, one of the things that feminism has done is to reject the reality of feminine forms of power. And politically, without the vote, women had political power. Before women had the vote, there were advertisements put out in women's magazines telling women to go and tell their husbands to vote this way or that way. So, you know, this idea that we won't have a voice is just completely absurd.
Well, I think the idea is that I think many MGTOW they think that they see, and I agree with them, that people. How can I put this? Essentially, there are exceptions to the rule. There are women who maybe deviate from what you can call like a left leaning ideology. But as a class, speaking as a generality, most women most of the time vote to the left. They vote for big government. They vote for more taxes. They vote for a
Yeah.
welfare state. They vote for that kind of stuff. And
I think it's probably a smaller proportion, but it's enough to tip the balance.
it's enough to tip the balance.
Yeah,
Okay.
to keep pushing these boundaries, and they're already way past dysfunctional.
Okay. So then therefore, ergo, taking away some of women's, and again, I'm not saying we should take away all of women's rights, but maybe the right, maybe the franchise, maybe the right to vote. And when I say the right to vote, really what I mean is the right to decide where the money is spent. When I say money, I mean tax money, and I also I always like to bring up that my understanding is that most taxes are paid by men. So you know, anyway, I just wanted to ask you that question. I am sorry. I have to leave. I have to go to work. But thank you for your time, Elizabeth, and thank you for your time, Hamster. It's always a pleasure. I'll see you guys later. All right, bye now.
Thanks for your question.
Oh, you dropped out. Is that what happened? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he's too busy
Sorry,
for us.
Liz.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
guess he doesn't
you
want to
know,
talk to a real woman.
like, like I was saying, that I have fewer female friends because I find less moral clarity in women than men collectively. The same goes for men who are considering having relationships with women. They're going to find the same thing. So, and I would say that it is absolutely better to be on your own than with anyone who lacks moral clarity.
Do you have any recommendations for men, for example, that want to, get a girlfriend? You got anything? You're a woman after all, so you should know this stuff, right?
Yeah, but I've been like an initiative taking woman, so I don't know how like men, because I believe that men are generally the pursuers, but that's not been my experience. You just have to stand in a corner and I'll come over. But no, I would say that anyone who wants to have a fulfilling and meaningful relationship needs to know who they are and be confident and competent and comfortable on their own, so that they are not in a position of weakness when they're trying to negotiate. And I think trying to negotiate their way through how they're going to live with someone, and we need to know what's actually important to us. And so you do have to have some kind of moral framework in place, whether that's coming from faith or it's taken some kind of soul searching.
So you're obviously a beautiful woman. So what do you expect in a man? You there's some dude that comes up to you and says, "Hey, Liz, excuse me, Elizabeth, could I have your phone number?" What do you want to see? How do we do what's better as men? For you, say, there's a guy.
Well, yeah. I don't. I mean, I can't speak for all women, can I? But I have noticed a tendency for simping in British men, which is like insta turn off.
So if some guy could, like, so I'm sorry, Lizzie, I'm a very nice man. You don't want that shit, do you?
No, it's gross.
Wouldn't you want a tall guy that's like protect your ass or whatever? Yeah, I admit it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What do you want though? What do you want? 6'5" guy, whatever. What's your thing?
I do quite like him tall. That's true. But
and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah,
there's a lot of these guys out here on the internet say, "Oh, you women are evil." Who doesn't want a tall man? It's fine. You want a tall guy. You want someone who's good looking. What's wrong with that? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And although, in the outside world and in practical ways, I have gone to lengths to make myself competent and independent. And so, I do want to go out to work, and, I don't want to be like a stay-at-home sort of wife. But in the kind of interactions and micro interactions, I personally do feel more liberated when I'm interacting with a man in nature's way, and he's masculine and I'm feminine, and I am looking after him and submitting to him at
What is
home.
this submitting stuff, though? Honestly, Elizabeth, what does that mean? Do you think submitting? I don't want
Well,
a
I
woman to
mean,
submit to me. I just want her to be a human. That's it.
I mean physically.
Okay. Oh, you like a
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very important. And then, you know, the other thing I need is for intellectual and moral challenge.
So how do you pick a man out who has intellectual challenges, or they want to challenge you with their intellect? Now, I know this is weird, but it's important. You know, you're an average woman, above average, I think, but in London, you're the West at this point. What the hell are you looking for? What can men do to say, okay, hey, Liz, give me something. Give me some direction.
Yeah, I've not found anything better than a pastiche of what I want in Western European men. So I'm kind of looking for like someone of Latin descent, probably.
So, I mean, when you walk down the sidewalk and some dude comes up to you, what do you look for? Yeah, this might be a guy I want to talk to. What is that? What are the things you look for?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's an instant, like,
So you get the tingles, in other words, like we say. Yeah,
and
tall
then,
guy, good looking and handsome and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, you know, that's not always worked out for me.
Well, it doesn't usually work out for anyone, but understood that. But I mean, you do have a couple of kids, so you know everything is fine. I'm just curious what the hell you look for as a good-looking woman in London. What the hell do you look for?
Yeah, but I think I do think that it is the moment. It's like a cliche, but I do think that it's actually kind of true, that it's the moment that you go, I'm actually really all right on my own, that you are kind of capable of seeing that person who's going to actually enrich your life just by existing in it.
How do you know that, though? How do you tell?
So, you know, I would be looking on a daily basis for someone, and you know, I am an introvert as well personally, so
Yeah,
I
I could tell
generally
that for sure. Come on, Liz.
I get
Stop
very
it.
tired.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I get very tired by social interactions.
Really?
Yeah, and I will want to just be like on my own, completely cut off for however long to recover. But it may be that there is someone who is meant for me that will make me feel more at peace in his presence than on my own. Who knows?
How do you know, though?
Well, I wouldn't have believed it. Yeah, and you know, you want someone who will support you when you are facing challenges and things are not good, and there is some kind of reasonable mix of listening and motivating you to fix it, and then also someone who will make good things better, which actually I've found is quite rare. Like, there is a weird competitive thing that goes on in a lot of relationships where one partner is not particularly happy when something good happens to the other. Perhaps it's like an insecurity thing or something, but that happens.
Do you believe all men are out to abuse women, for example?
Don't be ridiculous. What a silly question.
I know, right? I know. I just wanted to give you a chance to have some more of that wine, babe. No, just there's a lot of men here in the chat. If we were in London, for example, where you are at somewhere, tell us what we need to do to get your attention.
In theory.
I mean, do you have to drive a Lamborghini or a Bugatti or something?
No,
like
actually,
that?
you know what? I mean, that is quite an interesting thing with me, is that at this point in my life, I would be very uncomfortable with a man who was significantly out earning me, because I would feel a fear of being financially stuck potentially in that relationship. But on the other hand, obviously I want a man who is competent. I like people that are competent. I don't even want friends who are not competent.
Competent in what way, though, Elizabeth? Which way? Competent in what, I guess?
I think that hard work is a virtue. I like people, and especially men, who are able to do things with their hands, whether it's playing instruments or farming or woodwork or something, some kind of like very tangible capacity to make something where there wasn't something before.
Could we get someone else on the stream there, please?
Yeah.
He's a good guy, sweaty fat guy from Michigan. Hello.
I am not a good guy.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's probably true.
I'm definitely not a nice guy.
Jesus, did I just do that cackle like the Vice Badge girl?
You did.
Yeah.
Oh my
But that's
God.
okay. That's the whole reason why I have that name. It sets people at ease. From what you're saying, you sound quite a bit like the last girl that I was seeing, sort of long term. She turned 50 last year, and she's got 2 teenage kids. Well, one's 20 now, and she liked the rough hands kind of guy that builds stuff and that sort of thing. Wanted her sons to get more of an experience with a guy like that, because all the other guys she meets where she lives are the soft hands bankers, and they have their nice suits and they're driving their BMW or maybe their Cadillac, and they just don't get it for her. So she wanted the rough hands guy that lived in a cabin out in the woods and built his own house and a shop and works on cars and basically does everything. And she liked that for about 4 years, and then she kind of got bored. And then she went back to a firefighter that dumped her after 2 weeks, and then been cycling through bankers.
Oh.
Well, it doesn't bother me.
Like, it sounds like a bit of a midlife crisis at that age as well, though. Like,
Well, she got divorced about 15 years ago now at this point, because she said her husband was like shiftless and all he ever wanted to do was like paint houses part time, and she had to step up and provide for the family, and she just got tired of it. And from what I saw, that was pretty accurate. You know, I take stories from girls that I'm seeing with a big grain of salt. You know, kind of like Bonneville Salt Flats amount of salt.
yeah.
So, but it was interesting because she said that she would never ever pick me like walking down the street, you know. But what got her was I sent her a message. Well, she looked at my profile on this one dating thing that I did. It was years ago, back in 14, when I still gave a shit. And she looked at it, so I sent her a message. I was drunk and just sitting around, so I just sent her a goofy message. And she replies back, and she's like, "Was that an innuendo?" And I said, "No, that was a double entendre." And right there, it was like, okay, I won. She was like, "Gush, I'm in." So knowing English and not being an English major got me a girl for 4 years. And she was pretty cool, you know. But you know, girls tend to get bored with the guy that is all the hands-on stuff like I am. I mean, every girl in my life has gotten bored after a while and just said, "Well, I'm out."
No,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
I mean,
"Have a nice one."
yeah, I do see that happening. But I feel like there's a massive and unhealthy amount of pressure, and you know, it sort of bled down from media, these ideas and feminist kind of literature, that sells these just really bizarre ideas of what women are entitled to, how they should feel every day because their man makes them feel that way every day. And by the way, it's not like the same every day. It's like you have to be a million different men in one and know which is the appropriate face to wear for her that day.
Yeah.
And by the way, all of the same, you know, sources say that women don't owe men shit, so don't do anything to keep your partner interested. It's just him that has to chase you for the duration of your life together. But that's bled down more insidiously into women themselves. And so that's part of the reason as well that I kind of am very selective with my female friends, because there is a massive amount of weird kind of pressure to, you know, like a woman will say something very innocuous. Oh, you know, husband is going this place, or he did this, or we said that, or something. And then they'll get like a load of women jumping on them going, "That's not acceptable. Why didn't you tell him that he had to do this if he wanted to do that?" And all this kind of stuff, which is really, and I think that is part of the reason. But then, you know, I mean, part of it is the lack or the loss of faith that we've had. Like, if you're not married in the eyes of God, or if there is not a higher meaning other than the moment's pleasure right now, why go through any of the challenges that come in intimate relationships? And some of that is just boredom, you know. And the correct response
There's other things like you were alluding to.
it.
Girls have a huge amount of incentive, and they are encouraged to dump a stable guy that'll take care of them and does, you know, everything really well. They'll just dump him just so that they can have a bunch of drama in their life for a while.
Yeah.
That's what my second wife did. We lived together for 8 years, got married, and then 16 months later we were divorced.
Whoa.
You know, for 8 years it was awesome. And then
Oh
she
my
meets
God.
this kid, right? He's 20 years younger than me. I was 44 at the time. She was 30, right? I'm 13 years older than she is.
Mm.
And he was 20 years younger than me, 7 younger than her. Well,
Yeah.
she decides, well, this guy's my soulmate after meeting him or knowing him for three weeks, you know, talking to him a little bit here and there behind my back. And then her mother and sisters all said, oh, yeah, you need to dump the fat guy and go for this kid, right? And they all regretted it. Once they met him, they were like, oh, Jesus, this is what you picked?
Yeah, but I mean, that's like completely insane. Like,
Yeah.
you know, even 20-year-olds shouldn't be advised to go with another 20-year-old. Surely. Aren't we
Yep.
all idiots then?
Yeah, but they told, her mother and sisters went against what her dad said because her dad was like, yeah, this guy, he's, you know, retired military.
Jeez.
He's going places, even though, you know, he's got some physical problems from the military. And he's set for life. You know, he doesn't have to worry about anything. And you're just going to run off and go hook up with this kid that's at 20. He was 24 and
Yeah.
couldn't keep a job. You know, her dad ended up supporting him for 3 years and then somehow
Oh
they
my
broke
God,
up.
no.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how perverse.
And now she's 40 and her dad's still supporting her. And I know she hates me. And her sister, I saw her sister at a dumpster roll off where you take your old furniture and stuff and throw it away
Mhm.
in our township out here in the woods. And man, she gave me the dirtiest look, like she blames me for everything her sister's going through. And it's like, hey, I warned her. I told her this is all going to happen since you're deciding to do this. Everything I said came true. I've
Yeah,
been there.
well, I can see why they would hate you. Yeah, it's, you know, seeing you reminds them of their own foolishness.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
But
her
actually,
mom,
you know,
her
I've just
mom, when her
remembered.
mom sees me in town, she just like looks at her feet. She is so embarrassed. It's
Well,
hilarious.
that's appropriate. But yeah, no, in Naomi Wolf's book Vagina, she talks about how she knows all these women and they had really nice, stable husbands who were providing for them and their kids really well, and they all ended up divorcing them. Why? And she specifically says these women were bored. And then like she literally like has a list, a bullet pointed list of all the things that men need to do. And it's like you've got to be stable and emotionally available, but you've also got to be kind of dangerous and spontaneous and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And it's like
Well,
it's
even when you're
not really
spontaneous
realistic.
and dangerous, it still isn't enough
Yeah,
because I'm completely random, you know, and I build drag cars that go really freaking fast. I like outdoor stuff.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I built my house and carved it out of the
Anyway.
woods, you know, and the second wife, she's into the outdoor stuff. So she just like completely missed out on it. I couldn't do it when I was
Oh,
living with her because I was still paying the first wife and I didn't have all of my money
wow.
available. So she left at
Yeah,
exactly the wrong time for her
yeah.
and the perfect time for me. And it doesn't matter how exciting you are, you know, because it's like somebody chasing some sort of addiction. They got to get a bigger and bigger bump every time. And it's impossible for anyone to keep providing all of that that tingle over and over and
Yeah,
over.
well, especially when it's one way. Like if it's feeding off each other and it's like you're both expected to keep the relationship alive in that kind of way, you know, every so often doing something spontaneous and thoughtful and interesting, like you can feed off each other, but like one person just doing it, like
Yeah.
that's never
Well,
gonna work.
she her and I got along really good. We did a lot of things together. She's an introvert like you know, so she would get worn down in social situations. And I would like, you know, we live 13 miles away from town. She's like 2 miles away from me now. living by herself. And so I would like, just talk to people and check out lines and stuff. And I get enough social there because I'm antisocial, essentially. I'm not an introvert, not an extrovert. I just don't like being around lots of people. It's a PTSD thing. And we got along good because, she had her space in the house, I had mine. And then, we would spend time together when we felt like it. And it worked out great, and we'd go on adventures and go do stuff. And then all of a sudden it was like, she just said, oh, well, this guy's my soulmate. And I'm like,
oh my God,
don't let the door hit you.
The 20-year-old
Undead Chronic is in the building.
No, she was 30 when she did that.
Hamster. Where did you
Chronic.
find this redheaded British chick?
I like redheads, so
I know that.
Yeah, it was just an advert I responded to.
An advert.
Internalized misogyny, redhead sort.
Oh, cool.
Oh man. Well, I got a question because you said you I thought it was hilarious. You don't prefer men that make a lot of money. So it kind of hurt my feelings there. Can you dive into that?
So
he's like a younger, rich version of me.
I had an experience when I wanted to exit a relationship, and a lack of financial independence was a barrier. So it's just, a personal trigger for me.
You weren't making a lot of money, is what you're saying, right?
I wasn't.
So that has nothing to do with how much money the man makes. It's how much money you make.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up.
And obviously, it was a relationship and it was complex. But then, on the other hand, it's like if I'm earning, an amount that I can be sort of financially independent, but then I was to get with a man and have kids, and he's earning a lot of money, so we're living in a really nice area and the kids are going to a school in a really nice area and all of that, like, what would I do? Go and live like miles away because that's all I could afford? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
like I
would say that if you marry somebody, you should not even plan for the potential for divorce when you have kids.
No, yeah, I think that is true, to be fair.
I think a lot of women, especially when they, I don't know, you look like you're in your 20s, right?
34.
You're 34? Are you shitting me?
Yeah, she looks pretty good for 34, especially a redhead.
Hamster. This woman's drinking the blood of virgins every night.
Apparently.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I think a lot of women, when they get older, we're more refined. They kind of appreciate, oh man, I wish I had a man that kind of took care of everything. Because going to work every day, working in a corporate office, I'm not sure what you do, it's kind of soul crushing, right? Especially if you do want a family, which I'm not sure where your position on that is, having a family or not. If you don't want to have a family and you enjoy working, and I'll just say like living the life of a man, all the props to you. Enjoy it.
I have 2 sons already. And so I don't need to have more children, but if I loved a man and he wanted them, then I would have them. And there would be, at least the breastfeeding kind of period that it would be an absolute pain in the ass to do anything that was not staying at home to do that.
So I don't want to, if you don't want to discuss it, you don't have to, but what happened to the father of your children? Why did that relationship not work out?
Obviously I am not gonna go into significant detail about that in public because we do have kids, but I suppose I was 19 and I didn't know what I needed. And I was with him for 12 years and did put effort into trying to make it work. and eventually accepted that it was not going to.
Well, I'm going to assume there was no abuse, and it is just kind of a mutual decision to break up. Then, right?
That's sort of specifically why and those kind of questions are more detailed than I would give in public.
Okay.
I wouldn't want my kids to find out
no.
from YouTube video details like that.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's two things at play here. One is what the role of women in society is and should be, because right now it's whatever the woman wants, right? Like if you want to train to be a high level professional, gung ho, take affirmative action, who cares? If you want to just find a man and have a family and stay at home, you can still do that. The second option is the sexual freedom. All right. So women get to choose their own sexual partners. And let's not talk about you, let's talk about some other woman. I gave this guy kids, we married, he beat me, he did this, and this. When I hear women tell me that, I hear, I was attracted to abusive men. And I think, what a shame that this woman had the sexual freedom to give her body and children to an abusive man. Would it not be more merciful if a father figure chose her husband instead of her running off with some guy that's going to abuse her and make her a single mother?
Yeah, well, I mean, you will find that it is specifically fatherless girls who make particularly bad mating decisions. Although sweaty fat guys, missus, just ignored the dad that she did have given her good advice. So there is that as well.
Well, she's the second wife. The first one was the single mom wife, or single mom kid. And her dad left when she was 12. That chick was living hell for 8 years.
I mean, I would say if you're not planning to have children and a more traditional home life, you should not get married, period, because that's the point. There's no reason to marry a woman just because you love them. If you just love them and you don't want kids, keep her as a girlfriend. She's not giving you kids. She's not fulfilling the role of a wife. She doesn't need a ring.
And I agree with that after my second wife.
And like
basically the only reason we got married is because I got health care. She needed to get some stuff done, so we got married so that she could get some health care.
Yeah. So
and don't ever do that.
A lot of the people I talk to are young men under 30, I would say. And for them, I'm like, if you want to get married and have children and have a family, don't give time of day to non-virgin women. Non-virgin women are not deserving of marriage and children. Now, I say that there are instances where there are non-virgin women that do get married and have kids, and there's no problems, and it's a healthy family, yo-ho. But if you look at the statistics, if a virgin woman gets married, she only has an 18% chance to get divorced. If that woman had one previous sexual partner besides her husband, it jumps up to like 40%.
Yeah, I have seen that research, and actually Bettina Arndt did quite a good analysis of it, and she found it not entirely as reliable as it purports to be. I would say that it is.
What were her reasons?
It's something, gosh, it was
probably had to do with the fact that virgin wives are more likely to be religious, right?
Well, no, I mean, that was part of the original research, I believe. And it's certainly what you would assume. But no, her main sort of part was about age, actually. And the fact that actually at all ages, 30s, 40s, right up to 80s, there are couples meeting and enjoying very healthy relationships together. And obviously, when someone is getting into the second half of their lives, the likelihood that they're a virgin is very small. And actually, if they are, then there may well be some kind of psychological issues that are going to be a handful to deal with.
Well, past 35, you're not having kids anyway, but without huge risks.
I mean, yeah, I'd say that something, an indicator like that would be something to bear in mind. Yeah.
So you're
It's
saying,
not.
I guess what you're saying is like it's more important how old they are versus the virginity
No,
status.
no. What I'm saying is that would be to some degree a reassurance, but I wouldn't absolutely, go, she's a virgin, she'll do. I would
Yeah,
put
no,
more
it's
effort into the consideration
it's
than that.
it's
And on
just
the
one.
on the
It's
other
just
hand, I wouldn't
one.
necessarily completely discount
Yeah,
someone.
it's just one trait, right? It's just a one trait, and I talk about that one trait because our research is pretty much looking at that one trait. I'm sure if we could measure submissiveness, there would be a correlation there too. Maybe if there was some weird stat that if she had her left tonsil taken out, but she has her right tonsil and it reduces divorce rates by 80%, I'd be like, take your chick to the doctor and look at her tonsils. So it's not a end all be all, because even if 100 dudes marry 100 virgins, 18 of them are going to get divorced. It's just when you give advice to large groups of men, right? I say, no hymen, no diamond. Because if all of them listen to that, we're going to reduce the amount of family court slaughter.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
let me tell you from firsthand experience, the man gets absolutely destroyed in the United States in a divorce. Absolutely destroyed. I was indentured to the first
secondhand
wife for
experience
15
for
years.
you, right? That's secondhand because you lost both hands in the courts.
Well, the first one indentured me for 15 years, $250,000 in child support alone. Just absolutely destroyed me financially. I lived in my car on active duty for 4 years. Okay. The second one lied, falsely accused me, and I sat in jail for 15 days. But I only got out of that with only having to pay her boyfriend $3,000. They said I cut up his truck. So
yeah, I mean,
you're guilty if you're a guy.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you.
What's quite interesting though, I don't know whether it's the same in the States, but with regards to the UK, I don't know if any of you are aware of the empathy gap. It's a blog, empathygap.uk or something like that, which is run by William Collins. That's his pen name, and he published an excellent tome called The Empathy Gap: Mechanisms of Male Disadvantage and Neglect, or something like that. But he's he's very male brained, and he is retired now and spends his time poring through studies that are published. And that book is specifically about the evidence on sex differences in treatment and opportunities and choices and rights and all of that, although he branches off into kind of like COVID and other kind of areas as well. But what he found looking at the evidence from family courts was actually not that women are preferentially treated in family court, but that what is favored is the status quo. So, if a woman leaves and the kids are with the man and she goes to court to get access and he's like, they're here and they're fine, the judge is likely to say, just leave them then. And so the reason that doesn't happen is because women, keep the kids and then deny the access. There's not the discrimination in court based on sex. It's specifically that women, after they separate, are much more likely to be malicious bitches who won't put the needs of their children first. But, if a man wants to do that, he is able, and if his ex
is that in Britain?
A good woman who does want to put the children first, it will be her who is at a disadvantage. The system rewards the people who are the least scrupulous.
Is that the way it works in Britain?
The statistics clearly show that the people who are the most unscrupulous and who are not putting their children's needs first are typically women.
I'll
And that
agree with
kind of
that.
troubles me. That troubles me even more than the idea that it's, discrimination at the court level.
Well, it could be a little bit of both. I mean, when it comes to the criminal court in the UK and every Western country, men serve much more time for the same crimes compared to women.
Yeah,
So that's kind of, so like I would just assume it's that kind of, what is it? Wonderful women, all women are wonderful effect, whatever it's called, kind of goes everywhere. But it's the West is a landmine, right? For marriage and families. Because you're saying earlier, all it takes is a couple female friends being like, your man ain't shit.
Yeah.
You should go live the single life, live the whole life. You get groups of like 5 divorced women telling the one woman who's still married to get divorced just because, it's kind of insidious.
It's making them feel bad.
Yeah, well, it's insidious because I see like stuff like that happen all the time. And I think, can women ever really have friends, like honest friends? I'm sure there are, and I've known a couple, but when you get these friend groups of pickering birds, they're not doing stuff to make the friend's life better. They're doing stuff to make themselves feel better.
They're crabs in a bucket and they're dragging other women into the bucket.
Because if all the women they know make shitty choices, then they're not so bad. But if there's one who's doing the right thing and she's got her life together, then that puts everyone else in a harsh light, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I'll have my wife be friends with the grannies at the knitting group from the church. I don't think the grannies are going to be telling her to hoe out.
Well, not in the next 20 years. Well, not until 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Because 20 years from now, they're all going to be tatted up. And
those kind of women don't end up going to church knitting groups. They march in the streets and, cry into wine bottles, I guess.
Boxed wine in Catland.
But the culture of the West is so feminist, but more so like anti-family. These fertility rates are just crashing. It's so bad that we have first-generation immigrants coming. I know it happens in the UK too, right? So a couple from Pakistan or a couple from Yemen or wherever in the Middle East comes to the UK. They got like 8 kids. Like, woo! All the bankers are cheering. More consumers. Economy's going to grow. More control. But then those 8 kids, will have the same fertility rates as native Britons. They'll have like maybe 1, maybe 2 each. Maybe. They're culturally British, right? And that means they're culturally feminists, and it's just a cluster.
Yeah, because they're now growing up in the system that's been destroying the rest of us. So they're stuck with all the laws. They're stuck with all the societal Well, no, I
mean it's a global problem. Well, we've got Nigeria that's still growing, but everyone else birth rates are declining precipitously.
And the Western countries take typically the smartest and the brightest from all these other countries, and then convinces them not to have a lot of kids. So we're destroying the genetics of everything.
Yeah.
So I always think, like, how do I get a woman to the U.S. and keep her away from the feminist poison?
Make sure she doesn't speak English.
Well, I'll say, need to find a woman that's not going to go on social media. Social media is literally run by my enemies, the enemies of family, the enemies of the church, and they want to destroy those families. So I don't want her on social media, really.
Yeah, but social media is also, the avenue where you find dissenting voices.
But what's the point of having my wife on social media?
Or like mainstream media.
But why would I want my wife on social media? Like, what does the family get for her being exposed to the algorithms of, hot wife summer?
Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds like you're talking about quite a vacuous woman. But
there's smart women that fall into algorithm traps. It happens all the time. It's just if the only benefit,
there's a lot of good.
The benefit is like entertainment, right? Because like my wife's not going to be leading political groups. She doesn't need to hear dissenting voice against whatever movement or whatever.
You see, I think that that's actually very important. I think that in the cultural climate, you know, you go out and you are assaulted by like all of these adverts with misinformation. You have all these misinformed people who you will bump into and will say ludicrous things. And so I think that I would want a partner of any sex who is engaging with content that challenges them to see clearly
To
and
think about it.
judge.
Yeah.
And
I mean, maybe the compromise is I curate who she listens to, but stuff like TikTok, you get no curation on that.
well, I mean, I wouldn't want to sort of either partner to be curating, but I would want both partners to have similar interests and to be able to be like sharing information with each other that is important for leading good moral lives.
The problem is women are much more susceptible to propaganda and manipulation when they see other women telling them something. So the freedom to go onto TikTok is the freedom to see tons of women that you'll never actually see in person who don't care about you telling you, here are 10 reasons why if your husband does this, he's abusive. So at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to insult, you, but I don't need a woman's political opinions. I need her to submit to me and listen to me. She can argue with me. She can give me her opinion, but the potential intellectual growth you can get on social media right now compared to the absolute poisoning of her brain, in my assessment, that's not a good trade. It's not worth it.
It's a susceptibility
I would not be, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a fella, but I mean, I wouldn't be attracted to someone who was susceptible to being taken in by ludicrous propaganda. I would want someone who was reasonably certain of their morals.
Well, that's what guys are. Women are susceptible to conformity.
Yeah.
They want to fit in.
I do think that is a danger for women.
Yeah, and weak males, they want to conform too. They care about who likes them.
But there's a difference between having a vulnerability and being aware of it and being committed to not falling into that trap and ensuring that you are having meaningful conversations, you know, and your husband or friend or whatever should be for a woman an invaluable resource on checking yourself.
I see social media like a strip club for women, right? Or even worse, like a massage parlor. If I sent my wife to a massage parlor with a bunch of beautiful Asian women to get a massage, I'm not concerned. But if I'm going to these massage parlors 3 times a week and when I come home I look dehydrated and sleepy, there's a problem going on, right? So different environments. I could go to the massage parlor.
On TikTok, I'm with you. You know, there's an issue, but
YouTube, stuff like YouTube's a bit different. When I really talk about social media, I'm talking about TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Because you can always subscribe to podcasts and be like, okay, we'll watch this podcast together. But at the end of the day, it's like, would I rather have me and my wife listen to a podcast from some random on YouTube? Or do we want to listen to like an audiobook of some classical plays? Do we want to go for a hunt? Like, is there so many better things you could do with your time than to listen to a podcast or such? But I think the big difference is, in my wife's situation, she's not going to work. She's not talking to feminists. She's not watching like TV or whatever with these stupid advertisements. Her main focus is on the family and the home. So as long as you can limit the poison from the Western cultural poison coming into the house, you got a good chance. But if she's on her phone and she can watch TikToks, that's a giant snake thing. At any point, you just get her right in the heart.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but surely you would want to have, like, because you're sort of giving me the impression that you're sort of gonna bring in some woman and then say, by the way, this is the boundary. You're not on social media.
Oh no,
Like,
I tell her straight up.
fair enough, but I
I
mean,
don't want to like trying to jump all your values on a woman before you marry her and give her kids. Like after the fact, that's you don't know what's going to happen. That might end up in a divorce. I'd much rather find a woman saying, yes, I will submit, period. And I'm like, so what if that means I don't like your friend? You stop hanging out with them. To go, yes, that's what I want to hear before she gets the ring. I'm not going to just fall in love with a physical form and then be like, oh, by the way, you're going to have to grow out your hair and live at the top of this tower and chill. That's all.
Yeah, I tell girls up front how I am and what I expect. If we have one date and then she wants another one, that's when she finds out.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
the girl that I told you about that liked the strong hands guy, right?
Mhm.
She wanted somebody with rough hands.
hmm
She was like that. I told her straight up, I was like, you're never going to hear me tell you I care about you, love you, anything like that. You're never getting a ring, nothing. If I'm with you, that means I like you. That should be enough. And for 4 years, she was good with it. And we're still friends today. I mean, she's pretty awesome. She makes a lot more money than I do. So I kind of get your point about, making money. She's just fine whether she's with me or anybody else. So that's not a problem. And I like that about her. I mean, she took me to Vegas to go to this big car thing called SEMA. I mean, she paid for the whole trip. And I was like, well, thanks.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of nice. First time a girl ever did anything like that for me.
Yeah. And I think it's like, maybe it's to do with introversion. Like I don't like having like inane conversations and like wasting my time. If socializing is effort and it's going to leave me tired, then I want it to be meaningful when I do it. But yeah, I do believe in establishing what you're aiming for as soon as possible, but also, from a dating advice perspective, my experience is that men who express their expectations at the beginning, that's a masculine approach. That's it's women perceive that as masculine, and so that is, I think, for me, and I don't know, maybe I am different, I don't know.
It's a masculine approach for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why I do
more
it,
masculine than me.
the reason why I do it isn't because I think I'm going to get more dates by doing it. It's just I don't want to waste time with women that are useless to me, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste their time. Like I was dating this one chick, and she was very attractive. She was early 20s. I think she was 19 actually. Beautiful, exotic looking. I wanted everything I wanted except children. She's so upset when I broke up with her. And I'm like, I don't want to waste your time. I could lie to you and have a lot of fun sex with you, but I am wasting your time. Because in 10 years, your selection of men is going to be vastly reduced than when you're 19. So find a guy that's cool with not having kids and have a good life.
That's a very honorable course of action.
That's the same way I am. Because I ain't having no more kids. So if I meet a girl and she's young and she can still have kids and she wants them, I'm like, well, you can have some fun with me, but it ain't going nowhere, because I'm not having any more kids, because I'm not having anybody have that power over me again where they can just like take all of my money away and leave me living in my car. It just isn't going to happen. Because I'm not a MGTOW. I hang out with them because we agree on a lot of things, but I'm not a MGTOW.
Don't worry. I get called MGTOW all the time, man. It's funny.
Yeah. But, you and me have a lot of the same ideas, Chronic. Except
you just have more learned experience, which includes a family court judge branding you with his initials on your booty.
and having the second wife be a virgin when I met her.
How old was she?
She was 21.
And then she went nuts because all of her
At 30.
family and friends were.
Yeah.
They're like, have you seen Lord of the Rings?
Well, the other part of it is I was helping her dad out. I painted some parts, and I used the same mask twice. And when you do that with clear coat, you end up inhaling all the isocyanates and stuff. It doesn't filter, and it messed up my lungs for 6 months. So I couldn't breathe. I couldn't hardly walk.
You got sick.
I could, I could walk 10 feet to take a leak, and I was just winded, like I just ran 2 marathons.
Now I know that when men get sick, it increases the chance of their wife leaving. But I also know that
100%.
if a woman gets sick, so let's say if a man gets sick, there's like I think it was like 30% chance increase. Let's just say it's 3 times increase. But when a woman gets sick, it's like a 12 times increase. The man will leave. I don't have that study on hand, but I thought it was very interesting. I guess it's like, I don't know, older ladies, they get sick and the husbands are just like, I've got to find some more old lady puniti, or I don't know what I can't explain that, to be honest.
That, and this is also from personal experience, although it wasn't my kid. The Arab girl I was engaged to 30 years ago, she had her second kid when she was 34 or 35.
Ooh.
And he came out basically like a 2-year-old. He's a 6'2" 2-year-old, and he lives in Germany. They live in Germany. And
it's unfortunate.
He's a invalid of the state.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the amount of lying that society does to women about fertility, right?
But her husband bailed on her and started cheating and stuff. He just, once the kid come out and he wasn't right, he just like shut her off. He's like, I don't even want to touch her.
He chose a 34-year-old woman to have kids with.
Well, she was 31 when he met her.
Still, right?
Yeah.
So like a 31-year-old having kids is gonna have, it's not that much of a chance. It's not like, I think it's barely even, it doesn't even get to 1%, but it's still like 10 times the likelihood than if a 20-year-old has kids to have these kind of defects.
Yep.
But if he chose that woman to have kids with, and then he had an invalid son, and then he ran off and started cheating. That guy's an asshole.
Yeah, I agree. And she, her and I are still friends, and it's been 32 years since I've seen her. Last time I saw her was 1991. But we talk online and stuff. So we've been through a whole lot together. And, it's good to have friends in other places. And I think if I would have actually been able to marry her back in 1991, I would have never got divorced, and none of you would know me. Arab girls are totally different.
Yeah, they're different depending on what country you go to. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
some of them can be.
She grew up in Kenya. Yeah, she grew up in Kenya and lived in Dubai. Her parents are Omani and Yemeni, and they loved me. And it was just like a big mix-up why I didn't get to marry her back in 91. So I met her right before the war kicked off. It's a whole long kind of cool story. And then it's just been a world of shit ever since.
Yeah, we didn't get cheap oil from all those wars. Useless.
No. We had this big war and all we got was expensive gas.
Should have just, I think Saddam Hussein guaranteed Bush. He's like, if you let us take Kuwait, I guarantee you, as long as I'm alive, you'll have $100 barrel gasoline. Imagine that. We'd have people having gasoline fights at the pumps, right?
Yep.
But that's not as bad as the worst betrayal. The worst betrayal of the U.S. through foreign policy was Kissinger was in China talking to Mao.
Yeah.
And Mao, I guess there was some kind of communist fascination or obsession about reducing the population. They were saying they were having too many kids, which whatever, one child policy.
One child.
Mao offered Henry Kissinger, he's like, hey, how about you just take 1 million Chinese women under the age of 30? And Kissinger laughed, but Mao was like, no, I'm serious, man. Take them. Can you imagine how much feminism would have been slowed down if 1 million Chinese women, if you flooded the puniti market in the U.S.?
Oh yeah, because that many more women, Jesus.
Every Western woman, every white woman is like, I want to chase my career and degree. I'll give you kids when I'm 34 or whatever. It's like you look at her, then you look at the 21-year-old Chinese woman who's just like desperate for a husband. It's like that's an easy choice.
Now, I think the thing with China goes back to the Eisenhower administration, because they lied to it's either Eisenhower or Truman, and that's how Mao got in power and they became a communist country. Because before that, it was Chiang Kai-shek, and they pushed him off and sent him to Taiwan. And then they took over the mainland.
I think the primary thing is Chiang Sai, whatever the nationalist guy. His army got bodied by the Japanese, and Mao's was just chilling in the mountains because that's how they rolled.
Yeah, but also the U.S. kind of like hung him out to dry because they were lying to our president. It was either Eisenhower or Truman. I want to say Eisenhower, but it could have been Truman.
I mean, the U.S. likes wasting war and blood, money, and treasure on conflicts that should have no reason to be there.
Well, we like to get into great blunders, never get involved in a land war in Asia, and we've done it how many times now?
It's like, how rich we could have been if we just sold the Japanese oil.
Do you know how well off I'd be if I'd never gotten married?
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's very, very comparable. Very comparable.
Exactly.
Anyhow, Auntie Fembot, good luck with everything. Good luck to you and your children, your sons. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Later, Chronic. Good talking to you again, man.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up at this point. Liz, Lizzie, I think Chronic he's got his magic over you at this point. Yeah.
I think she's getting tired. She's had a little bit more social than she's used to.
Probably, yeah. I can see it, though. She's all right. Anyway, you guys have a good night. And I'm drunk, and I'm going to drink some more beer. Liz, lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thanks all. Night.
Take care. Bye-bye.